Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be my review of this knife, and this is the RoseCraft Blades Beaver Creek Barlow in Smoky Gray Bone. So this is a new version of the Beaver Creek Barlow. I did a review on the original version, which was in an orange bone. I really liked it, and I ended up, I can't remember if I gave it to someone or sold it or traded it, but one of those, and was excited to see that they were coming out with a new version and that I was going to get to check it out. So thank you to Andy at RoseCraft Blades, as well as Austin at Traditional Pocket Knives, which is where I suggest you get your RoseCraft blades. There will be a link in the description as well as a discount code, so make sure you use those. But I love Barlows. I am a big fan of Barlows. Barlow is really what got me into traditional knives, and I'm going to show you that Barlow with some kind of thoughts related to this knife in a second. But I love Barlows. I started the Barlow Bearcat Club, so if you love Barlows also, go to knifethoughts.com/Barlow Bearcat Club. And it's a club for Barlow enthusiasts, and they have seemed to be really, big fans of this knife also. And the reason I think that I enjoy it and that a lot of people who enjoy Barlows enjoy it is because it is a relatively inexpensive knife as compared to, maybe USA made knives. It's a knife that you can get without too much hassle, again, compared to USA knives. And it's a knife that just has the quality and kind of feel that a good traditional knife has. So this knife is made overseas. It's made in China, but it's about $56. So it's less than really any case Barlow that you'll find at this point. It's certainly less than GEC's. There might be a Baron Sun Barlow that's around this price. I'm not sure. But I know that the quality on this knife, I think you're getting a good quality for that price, because these are just made really nicely. I've gotten to check out several RoseCraft Blades knives, and I think that they are made really nicely. They have a lot of attention to detail. So, for example, the fitment on the covers is really nice. That's something that I have actually been a little bit disappointed with on GEC knives recently, is the fitment between the covers and the bolsters, and it's really well done on this knife. So there's no gaps between the covers and bolsters. There is a slight gap right here. I don't know if you can even really see that there, but there's a slight gap between the cover and the liner, but none between the cover and the bolster where you can see it a little bit better. Then speaking of gaps, there's no gaps in the back spring, just really well put together. Now, of course, you can see where they meet, but there's no gaps that you can see light through. The pins are really well done, and they're all flush pins, which is something that I like, I appreciate. Not what GEC does. They do some spun pins, particularly on the spring pin, right? Or is it on the... No, it's on the cover pins, actually. The spring pins are peened or flush like these. So I do appreciate that. And they, tend to seem to be ground really nicely. This knife cuts well and have good action. So I would call this about a 5, maybe 5.5. I wouldn't really say 6, maybe 5.5. Now, Austin at Traditional Pocket Knives marked it in his product description as a 7. Maybe some of them have some variation to them. That's certainly possible, but mine is more around a 5.5 or 6 maybe. But they have really nice snap, as you can see. Snaps closed very nicely. It has a half stop, and because there's that stop pin in there, you don't have to worry about blade wrap, which I really appreciate. I really hate blade wrap. It's something that's far too common on traditional knives, especially USA made traditional knives. It just shouldn't be something you have to deal with. A lot of people kind of dismiss it, but I don't think it should be dismissed. You shouldn't have to sharpen a bunch of edge damage out of your knife just because they didn't design it right so that it closes without slamming the backspring. Now, of course, it happens. It's something where you can't always know if it's going to happen. Particularly Jack Wolf knives are the best fitted traditional knives or slip joint knives that I have beyond or outside of customs. And they, one of them did end up having blade wrap. Of course, Ben fixed it and changed it for the full release, but it is, you know, the point is that it is something that can happen. Now, it's just a really nicely made knife, no blade play side to side. This one actually, it was weird. It came kind of uncentered, and then I oiled it, and it seemed like there must have been something in the pivot, a little bit of crud or something, because now it's pretty much centered. It's still maybe slightly off center towards this side, but it's pretty much centered, certainly to the point that I don't consider it an issue at all. So definitely, you know, a little bit weird in that it started more off center and became less off center, and it doesn't seem like it has developed any play because of that. It's still solid even when closed there. So not really sure, maybe, like I say, just a little bit of fuzz in the pivot that was throwing it off center or something, but not enough to cause any long-term issue. Now, in the past, actually in my video on the Beaver Creek previously, I talked about how they come with a sticker that says China, and it doesn't say it on like the tang or anything. And I kind of criticized that, and I don't know why it seemed like I couldn't get it off, the kind of shadow from that sticker on the previous one, but it came off really easily on this one. I think, you know, you can still just very slightly see it. I don't think you can see it in the camera, but just very slightly. So it's something where you just have to, you know, rub it off with some mineral oil or rubbing alcohol or something, and it will come off, and I'm sure it'll go away completely eventually. In fact, it seems like if I just kind of smudge it, you can't really see it as much, just a little tiny shadow there, so not a huge deal. And you can see the actual etch on the tang, D2 steel, RCT 006 GY. I'm guessing that's gray as the GY, and then RoseCraft is actually stamped in here. I like that. I like that they have the stamp on it. It's a nice touch. Now this is also etched in, and this is a pretty cool logo. I like this logo for a Barlow bolster stamp. There's a long history of Barlow's having bolster stamps, and it's something that I certainly appreciate. For example, I'll show you a couple GEC knives. So you've got the classic TC Barlow, the knife that really is the one that got me into traditional knives again, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more here in a second. Then here is the GEC 2AB or 2 Acorn Barlow. You can see they both have those stamps on the bolsters. I really appreciate those. I think that they give it a very traditional or historic feel, and I do appreciate that. Now, speaking of this GEC TC Barlow, it's really what drew me to this new version of the Beaver Creek Barlow, because as you can see, they're kind of similar. So they're actually the same length, or they're supposed to be the same length. The RoseCraft seems a little longer, just maybe ever so slightly, but they're both supposed to be 3.5 inches closed. Now, the TC Barlow is a little bit more slender than the Beaver Creek Barlow. Then they both have sheepfoot blades. The sheepfoot's a little different. This one has a long pole. This one has, you know, a nail nick and a shorter swedge to it, a drawn swedge rather than a cut swedge, as you can see. But my TC Barlow has black bone scales. There's actually no other black bone scale TC Barlows in the world as far as I'm aware of, because this was originally smooth ivory bone and I dyed it. Now, do I wish I hadn't done that? Yes, but I do like it how it is now, and it's been this way longer than it was the other way. And so the cool thing is that there's not a whole lot of black bone knives out there. So the fact that this RoseCraft is, you know, this gray bone, which is very close to the black bone, I think it's a really interesting comparison for me. And, you know, this knife has been used a lot. As you can see, the sheepfoot was a lot taller than that originally. So it's nice to have kind of a backup that's, of course, less expensive, less difficult to get, like I said. So if that's something where you have a TC Barlow, but you don't want to beat it up and use it to a toothpick or something like that, sharpen it down to a toothpick, you can always get a RoseCraft like this. It's not the same thing, but I think that, you know, you get a really nice knife, a very classic seeming knife. It's going to work well. You know, you won't have to worry as much about carrying it and such. And it's just a nicely made knife. So I know I've enjoyed getting to check out these RoseCraft blade knives. I really like the Nola Chucky Jack which is in my pile of knives here, and I want to show you because one last thing I wanted to mention is how good a job they do on the bone. So the Nolichucky Jack in particular, I think, is such an interesting bone color. You can see this moss green type bone here, and I'll give you a size comparison between these two for those who already have the Nolichucky. But I think they do such a good job of this bone. It's really different than a lot of other bone. You see, it's almost more like camel bone in how it seems to take the dye. So I really appreciate that, and I think it has a really nice look. So I've enjoyed getting to check out this knife. Again, I want to thank Andy at RoseCraft Blades and Austin at Traditional Pocket Knives. Again, you can get these at RoseCraft Blades or at Traditional Pocket Knives. I'll have a link to Traditional Pocket Knives as well as a discount code in the description. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, but make sure you also go to knifethoughts.com and subscribe via email there. I'm going to really focus on content there versus on social media. I enjoy doing that more than social media, and I hope you all enjoy the articles and such there at knifethoughts.com. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.